Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GTHub podcast for another week. I am once again Forzar18, and joining me is the regular cast characters here, and that would be one Rob,
Hi.
and of course our resident Arrow Pigeon.
Good evening.
And on that note, we will get into our open wheel special here, because, well, the world has just become very open wheel friendly, I guess, or open wheel heavy with its news and events over this past week. So we will start with the Italian Grand Prix from Monza.
I think before we start, actually, we should mention that someone in here has a new mic.
Oh, yes, well, I think that doesn't bear mentioning, because you can probably hear it, yeah.
You can actually hear Forza now.
Shut up!
I still have my same old headset mic, so all is well.
Yes, normality is resumed in some form or fashion. But yes, getting back to the point. Now I'm rather off track, thank you, Pigeon. The Heine Grand Prix de Monza. So, it's a pretty decent race, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was better than what I was expecting it to be.
Well, I mean, Monza's always pretty entertaining for what it is. They don't call it the place of speed for nothing, so...
La Pista Magica.
There you go. I was drawing a blank on the actual phrase. But, yeah, the race itself was pretty entertaining. As we had... Where did my note go? Here it is. As we had the fastest qualifying, or the fastest average speed in F1 history actually set over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I think it, as well as that, I think Raikkonen also broke the record for the fastest average speed set on an actual road course, not a NASCAR-style oval. Previous record being held by Jackie Ickx in a Ferrari sports car in 1973 at the old Spa-Francorchamps, back in the days when it was considerably longer than it was now and utterly terrifying.
Yeah, I can't even imagine actually how fast that was around an oval. But
Yeah.
yeah, going pretty quickly with Raikkonen's lap. That also took pole, which was 263.587 kilometers an hour, and in old money, that's 163.785 miles an hour.
Fast.
Very
Fast boy.
fast. It's a speedy Ferrari.
Speedy boy.
Speedy Ferrari, which got Raikkonen his 18th career pole and led a Ferrari front row lockout at home. It also meant that Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas would start a Mercedes second row. And, well, what seemed like that would pretty much be the case for the race wasn't actually what happened.
No.
Far from that, actually.
Many carnages were happening.
Many carnages. Unfortunately, it was the whipping boy that has come to be Brendan Hartley starting the drama. Yes. If there was any bad luck to fall upon a Toro Rosso, it would end up happening to Brendan Hartley, seemingly. And that's what happened on the opening lap, as he had contact with a Sauber. I don't remember which one it was.
It was Ericsson.
I was going to say probably Ericsson.
I think
Okay,
Van Dorn clipped Hartley's wing from the left-hand side, and then Ericsson took his tyre off from the right-hand side.
Yeah, which was pretty much a sandwich with poor old Hartley in the middle, and took him out on the spot there, which caused a safety car. But before that, we had Kimi Räikkönen storm off with the lead, and a battle into turn one, or not turn one. What was it? Turn
4.
3 or 4. Yeah.
Yeah, because you got the first chicane. Then.
The chicane, yeah. So it would have been turn 4. Between Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. And Vettel was the loser on that battle, and he ended up getting clipped and spun. So, caused damage to him, which meant he had to come in for a stop.
And F1 Twitter went mental. Completely mental.
Yeah, just a little bit.
By mental, how mental was it?
Very mental.
Just a tad bit mental then, okay.
Bit ridiculous.
May have slightly sort of exploded mental.
There was a lot of, how should I say this? There was a lot of sodium chloride amongst Vettel fans.
Oh, that stuff. Can be. Was there some pepper to go on the side with it in the other little shaker thing?
Indeed, there was.
There might have been,
right.
but I think there actually might have been a bit more come the end of the race.
Oh, damn.
As the Ferraris were pretty much the fastest car in the field, but coming back to the restart after the Hartley safety car, we had Raikkonen with the lead, but we also had I believe it was was it Lewis Hamilton at the time who was behind him? I think it was Hamilton. Yes, it was Lewis Hamilton who was behind him and was staying out on a longer strategy as Raikkonen came into the pits. And from that point on, it was Raikkonen in front of him who would have inherited the net race lead as Valtteri Bottas would have pitted. But thanks to Mercedes's cunning, they had him nicely park the bus in front of the very large Mercedes-shaped bus in front of Kimi Räikkönen to stop his momentum. And that caused his left rear tire to, I wouldn't say blister, it was almost blister, I would say, actually.
Yeah, it got very hot, put it that way.
Yeah, it wasn't the best looking tire because Vettel had the same issues, so it wasn't just a Raikkonen issue.
Yeah.
Although, having said that, the Mercedes had tire issues as well. Don't know what kind of issue the what was it? I think it was the right fronts that were the issues on the Mercedes. I seem to remember, but it wasn't as bad as it was on the Ferraris. But at any rate, the Mercedes of Bottas was in front, slowing down Raikkonen significantly, which allowed Hamilton to catch up, and that pretty much put Ferrari in a bind, and that was the race, really. Thanks to Raikkonen having to come in and make a stop. And as a result, that pretty much gave Hamilton the race win with 8 laps to go because his tires were done, really.
Yep.
So in what looked to be a red banner day, quite literally, because thanks to the Tifosi who were on site there, was very much a silver arrows parade because Hamilton brought tears to the eyes of the Italians at home, and ended up winning. And Raikkonen was 9 seconds behind in second, and Valtteri Bottas was third. So it was a Mercedes-Ferrari Mercedes podium.
He was only third because of Verstappen's penalty.
Well, yeah, I was going to get to that, actually. Third would have been Max Verstappen, but he, well, in classical Verstappen style, ran someone off track and had a penalty for it, in which case he came over the radio and said, "Why do I have the penalty?" And then they were just like, you know why you have the penalty, just focus." Yeah.
The thing, I don't think he actually did know why he had the penalty. I think he genuinely didn't realise that he'd moved over on Bottas.
That's hard to believe, but yeah.
It's Max.
I was going to say, can we just refer to that now as doing a max?
I mean, it was kind of obvious what had happened. It's not like he wasn't aware they had touched wheels. There was tire
he knew they
contact.
touched, but he thought that
Yeah.
Bottas come over on him.
Well, yeah, of course, that would be his thought process, because he thinks everyone comes over on him, even when it's not the case.
Oh dear.
But yeah, as a result, he forced off Bottas at the first chicane.
I mean, Bottas was lucky not to crash out, to be honest.
Yes,
It was quite a hefty impact.
it was very hefty impact, but he was very lucky.
And he was so close to the wall as well.
Yeah, which is, I think, why he ended up getting that penalty. Because, if it had been on an open bit of track, I'm not sure they would have given him that penalty. But since it was quite close to the wall, and he didn't leave, Max didn't leave enough room to the inside there, they gave him a 5-second penalty. And he's quite lucky it was only 5 seconds, because I thought it would have at least been 10 for that. But they gave him a 5-second penalty, and of course, had this been another driver, would have let Bottas through, so he would have at least kept fourth. But thanks to this being Max, he argued and cost himself 2 spots. Instead of finishing fourth, finished fifth. So Valtteri Bottas inherited a podium, and Sebastian Vettel recovered from his early race spin and second stop there to end up fourth. A very lucky fourth, I will add. And of course, Max, like we mentioned, finished fifth for Red Bull Racing, so they inherited some points at least, thanks to him. And Ricciardo had yet another engine failure.
No.
It was not an engine failure.
It was a clutch issue.
Right, and why do I not believe that issue? Yeah.
It's kind of like, isn't it like when Honda once said that they had an alternator failure with, I can't remember who it was, I think it was Honda said they had an alternator failure with one of their engines once because one of the pistons just completely took the alternator out.
Yeah, in which case it would be an engine failure, yeah.
Yes, but they said
so
alternator
coincidentally
failure.
happened that the alternator was destroyed on the way out.
Yes, destroyed by the piston coming out the block at God knows how many miles an hour. Yeah, that was going back a little bit though.
But yeah, Ricciardo may or may not have had an engine failure. He had an engine failure.
It was a clutch failure.
It was an engine failure. With the clutch just being blamed.
It was definitely a clutch failure, because otherwise you would have had some form of drive, I think.
Right, anyway. I'm still skeptical about that.
Also, it's Red Bull, so it probably was the clutch.
A really big engine-shaped clutch, you mean? Yeah.
Or is this like the alternator failures of a few years back? When...
Sure, let's go with that. But anyway, getting past that whole thing, Romain Grosjean was 6th, but more on him later for Haas. 7th and 8th were the Racing Point forces, Mercedes, of Esteban Ocon and Sergio Perez. 9th was Carlos Sainz Jr. for Renault, who we'll mention again later. And of course, 10th was a very lucky boy in the form of Lance Stroll and Williams Martini Racing.
Good day for Stroll in the park.
More on them later as well. And of course, what I mean by later, I mean now, because, well,
it all changed a few hours later.
It changed a couple hours after the race, because after the race, we had the situation of, because Haas had finished 6th, with Romain Grosjean, they had enough points to draw equal with Renault in the constructor standings, that being they were battling for 4th in the constructors. However, thanks to Haas's points, they were equal on 4th. But Haas gained 4th place thanks to countback, because they had finished 4th. They had finished in 4th place at Austria, so they had better position over Renault. So that meant Renault had fallen to 5th. Now, having said all that, Renault lodged a penalty against the Haas of Romain Grosjean about the legality of that car.
And rightly so. They're well within their rights to do so.
Well, this is true. However, it is a bit suspect considering would they have lodged the penalty if they had finished behind them in the race?
I mean, probably, because it was at this race that car was made illegal.
Well, technically, yes. However, there's a whole thing over the issue of the car. But Renault lodged a protest, and it was successful, which meant that Romain Grosjean was disqualified from sixth place in the grid, and that meant that Renault conveniently went back to being fourth. Yeah.
Lovely. And it also
not saying there's anything about them being a bit iffy on penalties, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, it also meant that Sergei Sorokin scored his first ever Formula One points. And it also means that for the first time in F1 history, all the drivers have actually scored at least 1 point over the course of the season.
Well, getting back to the getting back to the DQ though, the issue over the legality of the Haas was the fact that the leading edge of the floor was not in conformity with the regulations. And by this, there had been an FIA technical directive on July 25th, which in essence gave the teams until the Italian Grand Prix to comply with a clarification that was indicated to all teams. And that was in the form of, I have the thing here, from the FIA, which was the stewards determined that, as per technical delegates' report, the car was not in compliance with Article 3.7.1.d of the 2018 F1 technical regulations, as clarified by technical TD 03318. As have been noted in previous decisions of the FIA International Court of Appeal, technical directives are advisory in nature, but they provide a manner in which a competitor may satisfy the technical delegates and the stewards with proof that the car is compliant. In this case, the competitor did not follow the technical directive, and the outboard front corner of the car does not have the requisite 50mm radius. While the stewards are also sympathetic to the difficulties of producing these parts, the stewards noted that at least one other competitor was able to comply in the time provided. Further, it was made clear that the competitor from the outset, that the FIA technical department did not consider the car to be in compliance, and further that they left themselves open to the circumstances they now find. It was therefore the obligation of the competitor to be in compliance, which they did not do. And their whole sticking point with Haas was that they did not have time to fix the issue because Haas does not build their own cars. They have Dallara build the chassis for them. And thanks to this, they said that thanks to the summer shutdown for 2 weeks, it was only 3 weeks between the technical directive being issued and the Italian Grand Prix, so they didn't have enough time to implement the fixes, and they said that they were going to have it fixed in time for Singapore. But they were deemed to not have, or they were deemed to have had enough time because someone else had fixed their floor, so the stewards said no and threw them out. So that's how that stands. But Haas will appeal the disqualification. So we will see where that stands. But like you said, all drivers now have a point in the season, thanks to the moving up of the Racing Point Force Indias, who moved to 6th and 7th. Carlos Sainz Jr. Moved to 8th, and Lance Stroll was 9th, with Sergei Sorokin being 10th. So Sorokin gets his first F1 point. But very much stick a pin in that because I don't think that's done. So we will see. But Haas,
also,
as a result of being disqualified now, is now 10 points behind Renault in 5th.
And also the Force Indians move ahead of the Toro Rossos.
Oh, well, yes, there's that too. The Racing Point Force Indians, which are technically a new team, are now very much in the battle for probably the battle for 7th, actually.
Sixth, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe they.
Well, actually, no, they sit 7th, don't they? Yeah, they sit 7th because
Yes.
they're ahead of Toro
Ahead
Rosso.
of-
And Sauber, Williams.
They're now battling.
Everyone's ahead of Williams.
Well, yeah, but Williams is rightfully dead last again. That's been righted. No one should be behind Williams at this rate. No one. I'm convinced a new team, like literally a new team, not like Force India new team. A brand new team could come in and probably score a point at this rate and beat Williams.
Second Grand Prix.
GTHub F1 team is incoming.
Yes, we could make a team and we'd be better than Williams. Car is awful.
I was going to say Stefan GP could probably come in and go ahead of Williams.
Stefan GP, what was that, like
2010, 2011, when they wanted to run the old Toyota stillborn car from the TF110, I think it was called.
Oh, right, yes, that's
Which
right.
Arguably could well have actually won the World Championship had Toyota not pulled out of Formula One, as is always the way.
As is the case with Honda as well. Had they just stuck in another year.
Exactly.
But yeah, we will see what happens with that. And 6th is McLaren, right? Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Somehow, yeah.
The ultimate wonderful news of this bit would that be McLaren would lose to the newly incorporated Racing Point Force India.
With the best chassis on the grid.
TM.
Yes, TM. The best chassis and engine on the grid. Remember? Yeah.
Yes, we have the best chassis on the grid, and they get rid of the Honda engines, and then everyone realizes what everyone suspected all along, and that the chassis is not actually that much good.
Yes, and
it's not the worst.
No, it's not the worst.
It's not the
It's
best.
not the best.
Yeah.
Which is, but they're saying it's the best chassis in the world. TM.
Very much like how the Renault is the best engine in the world, TM. Yeah.
Ah.
But then again, that's actually true, considering it works quite well in the Renaults, but really badly in the McLarens and the Red Bulls.
Well,
Funny how that works.
It's okay in the McLarens. It's not as bad as it is in the Red Bulls.
Yeah, but
Red
you
Bulls,
never
it's
see a
awful.
Renault grenading all the time, do you?
No.
Yeah, that's my point.
But McLaren before Monza hadn't had a retirement since Austria, I think.
Oh my god, I am shook.
For goodness sake.
Actually, when was the last time McLaren scored points? It's at least 9 races ago, isn't it?
Oh, hold on. Let me look that up.
As the clicking of Rob researches, yeah.
Yes, as I vaguely...
As he does that, and he will move on while he gets the answer. Speaking of McLaren, lots of McLaren news this week.
Well, lots of driver news.
Well, driver news that concerns McLaren and McLaren personnel.
Started by McLaren.
Yes, and I can confirm that McLaren did score at the Hungaroring. Fernando Alonso came
Alonso.
So that was 9 races ago then?
That was
No, that was
2 races ago.
Was that 2 races ago? I can't even remember. It was so long ago.
Last time Van Dorn scored was
Azerbaijan.
10 races ago. Yeah, Azerbaijan.
Right, okay, so he scored his only points when the Williams scored their only points then, prior to Italy.
Van Dorn also scored in Bahrain and Australia.
Yeah. Alonso also scored in Bahrain, Australia, China, Azerbaijan, and Spain, and
you're
Silverstone
just
and Austria.
you're being redundant, Rob. We know Alonso is the only McLaren that scores points because seemingly, if the McLaren gets points, they'll finish 8th, and it'll be Fernando Alonso. They can't finish any higher than 8th because that would be a shock. Yeah.
Yes, and then I would have to repeat what I've just said out loud again.
But anyway, getting back to the point of the McLaren news, yeah. We have news that the worst kept news really is that Stoffel Van Dorn and McLaren will part ways at the end of the season. And in his place will be young Lando Norris. So they will have a completely new lineup for next season.
Christ, that makes me feel so old.
He was born in '99.
He's 2 years. He's younger than I am, and I can remember when he made his debut in car racing in the Genetic Junior Championship.
Ugh.
I don't even remember the Genetic Junior Championship because I wasn't even aware he had done such things.
He hasn't even turned 19 yet. It's ridiculous.
I know. He's not long since been able to legally buy Grand Theft Auto 5.
I just seen what chat has said about Alonso.
Yeah.
It's the shitbox whisperer.
That is so true.
I think that's a bit mean on the 2010 Ferrari, though. It wasn't that bad.
Yeah, but then again, the Ferrari a couple of years later, that was a different breed of shititude.
But yes, getting back on point here.
When have you
Lando
ever
Norris
been on
will
point?
be. Well, I'm trying my best. Lando Norris will be the McLaren driver to replace Stoffel Van Dorn. So McLaren will have a new driver lineup for next season, in which case they're trying to rebuild. So good luck to them having any sort of status quo there to rebuild upon, because they'll have Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz Jr. being the driver pairing there. And this feeds into the rumors that Van Dorn might switch to Sauber next season, but now that I've mentioned that, don't get used to that rumor because I have news on that front as well. The rumor with Van Dorn going to Sauber is the fact that the new head of Sauber for this season is Frederick Vasseur, who used to run Van Dorn and ART Grand Prix team in F2.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that whole thing is, and he's still very high on Van Dorn's talent, and he's pretty talented, but he's not gonna make way for Marcus Ericsson's not gonna make way for any driver, so you can already forget that situation. So if he were to go to Sauber, he would have to replace Charles Leclerc. Of course, that hinges upon him moving. But more on that later, because I'm going to stick with McLaren, because they've returned a former employee to their ranks. Apparently neither one of you know what I'm talking about.
No. When was this?
Okay. Well, Pat Fry has come home to McLaren.
Okay.
And he will fill the role of engineering director.
I'm surprised they even have one.
Well, apparently that was supposed to be the role that James Key had, but, Toro Rosso being sticklers to contracts have, said, no, you can't have him for another year. So,
I mean, they're going to have the key, but are they going to have the secret?
Well, I mean, if anyone knows how to make a good car, then,
Yeah.
Rob, that was awful.
Why do you think I just ran over his little pun there? Because it was terrible. But yeah, Pat Fry has returned to McLaren after leaving for greener pastures at Ferrari, and then come back after 8 years. What this means, I don't know, because who knows if the McLaren's going to be good next year? Nobody knows.
Probably not.
Spoiler,
I
it
would.
won't.
Yeah, well, is that really a spoiler though? Because I think it's more of the same, really.
Yeah.
When you have Zach Brown and everyone working there admitting it's going to take 4 years to even be competitive, I don't think that's a spoiler. But yeah, Pat Fry's been brought in to shore up the engineering department alongside James Key. Who knows? Who really knows at this point? But
Nobody.
getting back to Charles Leclerc, don't get used to Van Dorn replacing him, because news has come out this week that a new Ferrari driver will be born in the form of Charles Leclerc to replace Kimi Räikkönen for next season. A plan had been put in place by former Ferrari president Sergio Marchionne in July, prior to his death, that Leclerc would succeed Räikkönen in the Ferrari driver lineup, and the new management of Ferrari has opted to follow that plan. So that means Charles Leclerc is on the way out. However, Stoffel Van Dorn is not going to be in the Sauber, and that'll be another Ferrari driver in the shape of Antonio Giovinazzi being slotted in there.
Antonio. I like him. He's good.
Antonio
He's good.
Giovinazzi, yes.
He's very good and is going to be getting some excellent practice in driving the ESM Ligier Nismo DPI.
Yeah, well, translating sports cars and F1 cars, yeah.
Yes. He's already actually had a couple of starts.
Yes,
In
'cause he
F1 as
started
well
for
for Sauber when
Sauber.
Wehrlein done his back in at the Race of Champions, and his best result is 12th in Australia, and we won't mention what happened in Shanghai. Two fairly sizable accidents at the same corner, one in qualifying and one in the race.
Close the window, the air's on now. Sorry.
Let's see here. So yeah, Leclerc will be going to Ferrari, and that means that the open Sauber seat will be oh no, computer, don't do this to me. There we go. Had a momentary spasm there, but Antonio Giovinazzi will be in at Sauber, and that pretty much rules out a seat for both Esteban Ocon and Stoffel Van Dorn. So we will see what happens with them. Of course, there's seats open at Toro Rosso and Williams, but really one of them's open because I don't see who wants to drive a Williams.
It'll probably just be Kubica. Kubica and Sorokin.
Or George Russell.
That's arguable as well.
Yeah.
Because even Kubica is going, So,
Yes.
yeah.
And I've actually done a quick bit of math.
Oh no, you and math, that's dangerous.
Oh no.
Yes. I've actually added together Force India's points from earlier in the season to the points of the new Racing Point Force India team, and actually right now they would be fourth in the constructors.
That's brilliant.
Well, they have the fourth or fifth best car on the grid, depending on how you look at it. I still think the Haas is better than the Force India chassis. But yeah, that is quite interesting when you think about it. They were thrown out. They would be fourth if they could hang on to the points that they had acquired beforehand, but sadly they cannot. So yeah. Is it slightly American bias, but it is a generally better car than the Force India. That's not my saying that. That's observers who are actually there who know more than me saying this. But
Yeah, I think
Force
India is probably the sixth best chassis because it's got the Mercedes engine in it.
Well, that's the thing that is supposedly the better thing, but I think the Ferrari has a better engine package now at this point. So.
Oh yeah, but in terms of like, if you take the top three out, I'd probably say Renault's got the best chassis. And then Ferrari's got the slightly better engine than Mercedes. So Haas is slightly higher than Force India.
In the midfield, yeah, you're right. They're the best fifth, so the Haas would be fifth. So yeah, on that basis, then the Force India would be the sixth best chassis there.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course, then after that, it's debatable whether you have McLaren or not. But yeah, because I don't know, the Saubers aren't that bad actually. So yeah. On the basis of the performances that Leclerc could put in with a supposedly terrible, the worst car on the grid, yeah. Supposedly, even though that honor really goes to Williams. Yeah. But we will see. So going back to the open wheel theme, we will go to IndyCars now. And the race of the weekend, really.
Race of the year.
One of them.
Arguably race of the year, contender for race of the year already, yeah. So, those that are unaware, and if you are unaware, why are you unaware? Because, yeah.
Go watch it.
Go watch it immediately, yes.
You are not a bold one.
Just stay in your lane, Rob. Just stay in your lane.
Okay, I'll try to.
Avoid the Star Wars. Yeah. We had IndyCar returning to Portland for the first time in 11 years, and my God, what a crowd was there waiting for them all along. It's been a cold 11 years for Northwest IndyCar fans, but they returned to droves for their IndyCar's return there. It was a really good crowd, and that's really heartening to see for such a good race. The track is amazing, as usual. Pretty much the same layout since they last went there, except for a few. I think the only change was turn 7, I think, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes, turn 7, yeah.
It was widening turn 7, I think. So yeah, that was the only change to the track. Which is really good because Portland's race is fantastic with the new Indy cars. So yeah, just add that race to the schedule, just forever. Just never take it off.
And IMSA, please come back to the Pacific Northwest.
Oh, we can dream.
Well, we can
dream so much.
IndyCar weekend would be very lovely. Make that happen. I'm not sure paddock space allows that to happen, but that would be a dream if it could happen. But getting to the race here, we had Will Power upsetting the apple cart, so to speak, by claiming his 4th pole of the season and locking out a Team Penske front row in qualifying with Joseph Newgarden starting alongside him. And just barely, Newgarden just barely beating Alexander Rossi, who would be bumped to 3rd in his title quest to upset Scott Dixon, who did not make his life easy trying to keep the point lead in Portland by missing the Firestone Fast 6 and qualifying 11th. So
now,
yeah, this after showing pace in the practice session or the promoter test on Thursday and the practice session. So yeah, don't know what happened there, but they just did not have the pace. And so he started 11th on the grid. Power's pole was his 54th of his career, and that earned him 2nd on the all-time IndyCar pole list, just behind Mario Andretti. So yeah, that's something to shoot for, and he'll probably actually get that. So yeah, he could very well be the all-time IndyCar pole sitter pretty soon. So that was the thing of historic note. And well, getting into the race, we had well, much like in F1, we had drama right off the bat, really.
Oh yeah, big drama.
Very big
drama.
championship very big championship complications could have, or implications rather, could have taken place here, as Scott Dixon was involved in the first lap crash. Well, I say crash. He really didn't crash into anything, really. People crashed around him and above him, but he was unscathed.
Luckiest boy of the day.
Yeah.
Lucky boy.
Well, he had many lucky charms on him because that wasn't the first time luck would come to him.
I think he was wearing about 4 pairs of lucky underpants.
And a golden horseshoe and a lucky rabbit's foot and all the other things. 4-leaf clover somewhere. But yes.
Clearly hasn't walked under any ladders.
Oh no, that would go to apparently Alexander Rossi. But more on that later.
Absolutely.
The race started with contact at the first corner chicane between Zach Veach and James Hinchcliffe. And Veach would be okay after that. However, Hinchcliffe would spin after the contact and across the track and end up in the dirt with Sebastian Bourdais, Ed Jones, and Marco Andretti having nowhere to go alongside Scott Dixon. And they all ended up in the dirt on the left-hand side of the track. The ensuing accident saw Marco Andretti fly over Ed Jones's car, and
over Hinchcliffe. He flew over 2 cars.
Marco Andretti flew over the back of Ed Jones's car, clipped James Hinchcliffe, and flipped off the top of his roll hoop, or his roll
hoop,
roll hoop. And then come flipping off of that and ended up upside down in the dirt. And somehow, as this all happened, Scott Dixon was just driving through dust clouds. It seemed like he was in the middle of the desert somewhere from his onboard camera.
Yeah.
And just miraculously stopped in the middle of this accident. Okay. Just nothing wrong. Completely fine. The only incident, or the only resulting incident between them came in the fact that his suspension was slightly bent and his radio antenna had gone. So they were having trouble communicating with him for the most part.
Good old hand signals and pit boards for the win.
But other than that, he was perfectly fine and had a nice big tire scar across the front of his car, across the nose of his car, throughout the rest of the day. But totally fine. And the championship lead was safe at that point with Scott Dixon because he was still running. Of course, at this point, Alexander Rossi had assumed the lead after the ensuing restart, I believe.
Because Power had he had a gearbox issue with his first gear after the restart.
Unfortunately, that would hamper his chances as he would have that issue throughout the day. And that put out the pace for the Penske's, which actually surprisingly and shockingly weren't on the pace at all through the race, really.
Apart from Newgarden.
Newgarden had some pace, but the results didn't really show it.
Yeah, because like Rossi, he got screwed over with yellows.
Well, that's true, but he also didn't help himself by getting a penalty in which he had to switch positions as well, which cost him time. But that was not really that consequential at the end of the day. But yeah, the Penske's weren't really anywhere because Simone Pagenaud was there or thereabouts. Where did he finish? He finished 6th. So he was the highest placed Penske car, but coming into that day, he was not the expected pace setter for the Penske Armada. And so that put a dampering on the championship hopes for the Penske boys. But getting back into the race, there was actually quite a bit of drama because there were 4 cautions on the day. The first one coming for, of course, that very scary accident, but luckily all drivers walked out okay. Marco Andretti amazingly just being righted, put on his wheels, and walking out, and then moments later being interviewed by Katie Hargett on TV. So, only thing knowing that he was in an accident was that he had dirt all down his neck. So that was quite amazing. But that happened. Will Power, to add to his woes of gearbox issues, wound up in the turn 11 tire barrier there. Not the first time that would happen either in the race, but he ended up in the tire barrier at turn 11 on lap 43, and that ended up with a caution. So that's pretty much was him fixing his gearbox after that. I believe they ended up changing a
they did a gear
stack.
stack change.
Yeah, gear stack change on that. So that's ended up putting him behind and finishing 21st after that. So that put an end to his chances of the race. Also on lap 58 rather, I lied. There was a 1 lap caution there for Zach Veach, who ended up doing the same thing Will Power did.
Yep. Same turn.
Nosing it in at turn 11. So, yeah. And spinning it and coming back onto the track. So that's, I think, was that the... No, there was another... The final caution was the one that threw a wrench in the plans of everyone, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Where was the actual caution? Was it the Veach caution, or was it the one that was for everyone's favorite driver, Santino Ferrucci? I think it was the final caution that put them out.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it was, because I think that was a fuel sensor issue on that car that led to him just stopping on track.
Yeah. It might have been. I think it was that one. But yeah, on lap 76, Santino Ferrucci stopped in turn 6, oddly enough, with, I believe, like Rob said, a fuel sensor issue, and that brought out the caution. However, everyone anticipating a caution came in, who was on a 2-stop strategy, I believe, was what Rossi was shooting for. Or was it a 3-stop strategy?
No, Rossi was on a 3-stop. Dixon and those guys were on a 2.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So Dixon, Takuma.
Takuma Sato.
Basically
Ryan
the top 6 guys were on a 2-stop.
Yeah. Of course, there were the Carlin drivers were on the same strategy as well. So they were another team that had a good day throughout. But that final caution put wrench in the plans of pretty much everyone who was behind those in front who had stopped before this caution had come out. And anticipating another caution would come, they all came in. However, the safety car wasn't called until everyone had made their stops by Indycar. So that was a good call on their part.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that, however, did put Alexander Rossi behind, but he was not behind for that long on the restart. He made up ground quite quickly, and he made very good passes, as did Spencer Pigot on Scott Dixon coming in.
Yeah,
I think
indeed.
It was into turn 7 is where he made that pass.
Turn 6.
Turn 6, or yeah, it was turn 6. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming past him on the outside, just a brilliant move by Spencer Pigot, who had another great day for Ed Carpenter Racing. So I think solidly securing his seat there for next season. Spencer Pigot on his hot streak of late. However, someone who would not carry their hot streak would be Zach Veach, because he was seemingly the pinball in the race. As he hit every single person who possibly was near.
Yep. One of those days, etc., etc.
one of those days he hit everything, it seemed. He did do the honorable thing and had a nice hole in the side of his floor, though.
In fairness, he was losing quite a lot of time, I think, because of that.
Well, he had some damage thanks to hitting Hinchcliffe early in the race, but the spin that he had in turn 11 kind of literally just hit a gigantic chunk out of the floor, so he had to come in and change that. So that put an end to his runs. I think his run of 5 consecutive top 5 finishes he was on coming into the race.
4 consecutive top 10s.
4 consecutive top 10s. That's what it was. But the pit stop strategy did not work out for Rossi, so that put him behind Dixon, and this allowed Takuma Sato to inherit the lead with about 18 laps to go or so.
Yeah, I think so.
And because he inherited the lead because before that, Max Chilton was leading, who stopped just prior to that. So yeah, the Carlin guys were leading their first laps of the season, I think, as a result of that. But as a result, Takuma Sato took the lead. Ryan Hunter-Reay and Sebastian Bourdais were on the same 2-stop strategy, as was Scott Dixon. I think Piggott was on a 3-stopper, so I think he would have been the first of the 3-stoppers.
Yeah.
Which is not bad considering the pace he had, but he would have been the first of the 3-stoppers had that worked out. Would have inherited a win possibly if everyone else had ran out in front of him, but was not to be. And Takuma Sato held up just and had enough pace to hold off Ryan Hunter-Reay, who got the all clear with 2 laps to go after Sato. And it was a battle of push to passes and who had the most. And Ryan Hunter-Reay just came up short because he had more than him, but Sato had just enough to keep him behind because he didn't have the pace on the straights that RHR had, but through the infield section of the course, he was just nowhere to be found. So he ran away with it.
I think one more lap and Hunter-Reay might have got him.
Yeah, he might have gotten him because he had more push to pass, but that was not on the cards. There were only 105 laps and not 106. So that's how the cookie crumbles on that one. And RHR ended up just under a second behind him at the line. And Seabass was third for Delcoin Racing. Delcoin Racing with Bass Sullivan and his funkily painted Gorilla automotive Honda.
With OSHA-approved front wing.
Yes, with annoyingly the OSHA-approved front wing on it because he knocked off the livery nose.
Yes.
To complete the set, actually, nicely, because in qualifying he had the OSHA-approved engine cover on.
Oh God!
Because he crashed in practice 3 prior to qualifying. So
yes, that was brilliant.
That had a evening out there. So
love a good bit of OSHA.
It actually made the livery stand out a bit more, so that was quite nice.
That's quite nice.
Almost as if it was planned, but no, it was not planned.
It was an accident.
It was an accidental livery design that actually worked.
More so than Williams painting their car in 500 different colours of Flovis paints in testing.
Yes.
You mean Williams? Yeah.
Yes, Williams, as they try to work out just how balked their car. Oh wait, no, it is very balked. Never mind.
Rob getting to the point there. Spencer Piggott being 4th in the number 21 Ed Carpenter Honda, or Chevy rather. Top Chevy. Scott Dixon was 5th in saving his points lead because it was 26 coming into the weekend, and leaving the weekend he gained 3 points on Alexander Rossi, so he leaves with a slightly bigger point.
After lap 1, it was like a 20-point lead to Rossi.
After lap 1, it was like 40. He was ahead by 40 points, I think.
Yeah, something like that.
At one point in the race, it was a 40-point advantage towards Rossi. So yeah, big swings throughout the race with the point lead. But the luckiest man in the world, other than Robert Wickens, was 5th, and that meant he had a slightly bigger lead coming out of Portland than he had coming in. 6th was the best Penske, like I mentioned, with Simon Pagenaud. 7th was Charlie Kimball, in a good day for Carlin. 8th was Alexander Rossi, and second best Andretti Honda for him. Was another good day for Dale Coyne, because like I said, Bourdais was 3rd, and Pietro Fittipaldi was 9th, and Joseph Newgarden was 10th.
Nice.
Tony Kanaan.
Did you say Newgarden?
Yeah, Newgarden was 10th.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think you were saying he was part of Dale Coyne for a second. I was really confused.
No. Pietro Fittipaldi was ahead of him
Yeah.
in the Dale Coyne Honda. But Tony Kanaan was 11th on the weekend, celebrating the birth of his daughter, Nina Bolander Kanaan. Yeah, just
They've
trying
got
to
some
get that in there.
crazy names.
Well, I believe Bolander is the last name of his wife, so just carries over to the newborn, which is she weighs 7 pounds, 11 ounces, and 20.5 inches. So, just getting that in there. But very happy weekend for Tony Kanaan, and a good showing for the AJ Foyt guys. Carlos Munoz had a great showing for Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports in the super sub position for Wiki as he's recovering. And not bad for a driver who'd not been in a current IndyCar on a road course. So, yeah.
Yeah.
The first time he was in an IndyCar on a road course since 2016. So, yeah. Been a while, but he showed quite well. Gabby Chavez had a nice day for the Harding guys as well. But yeah, that's how that race shaped up. And the points coming into or coming out of Portland, like I mentioned, Alexander Rossi's 29 points behind. Will Power and Joseph Newgarden, oddly enough, are tied for 3rd. 87 points behind. And it's going to be tough to even make a run for the title. Mathematically, it's possible because there's 100 points on offer, but
it's not.
Short of...
They need Rossi and Dixon to basically come last.
Short of Dixon coming dead last and Rossi finishing in front of him, it's going to be tough for the Penske boys to bring home a championship. Of course, we should mention that Honda has already locked up the engine standings, the engine championship for that. And of course, Ryan Hunter-Reay is 5th, and well, he's very far back. He's rolled out. So basically, it's a 2-horse race between Scott Dixon and Alexander Rossi. So Chip Ganassi Racing versus Andretti Autosport for the title.
We should mention that Robert Wickens has managed to seal Rookie of the Year.
Oh, has he? I had not known that.
Yeah, he's got a 110-point gap to Zach Veach, so he's got Rookie of the Year, which is good.
That's excellent news, yeah. Well, also on the fact that he's been moved back to Indiana, so
yes,
there's that news as well. Very welcome news on that front. So, yeah, very, very good news to come out of that. And of course, we have... we can actually add some champions to the mix because the very final weekend of the 2018 Mazda Road to Indy season was wrapped up at Portland. And actually the very final weekend we can say the Mazda Road to Indy because Mazda wrapped up its title sponsorship rather of the IndyCar development ladder. Rather sadly, actually. 8 or 9 good years of Mazda actually propping up the ladder system there and
2010,
making it.
I think it was.
2009, 2010, yeah, something like that. That's when they started their sponsorship. Actually, even going farther back then, even back to the old Atlantic series with Champ Car, giving out scholarship money in there as well. So
and Pro Mazda as well.
Well, Pro Mazda is part of the Road to Indy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's very long association with Mazda giving out scholarships to junior drivers in the American Open Wheel Series. So nobody knows who's replacing them, but the very final Mazda scholarship money was awarded. Kyle Kirkwood sealed his title all the way back at Mid-Ohio. In the US.
Oh, wow.
Feels like that was 3 months ago.
Yeah, feels like a very long time ago. Yeah.
Mid-Ohio. Cool. Was that was in a bygone era when it was nice and hot and everyone was actually watching the football, I think. Here in the UK.
Football had finished by
Sounds
then.
about right, maybe. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It was that long ago.
It was so long ago. It was before football had even been invented.
Oh God!
Wow.
Now you're just going too far. But yeah, Kyle Kirkwood was the USF 2000 champion all the way back at Mid-Ohio, so we knew that championship had been locked up. But the only question left in doubt was whether or not he could equal the win record in USF 2000 in the season. And well, wouldn't you know it, he did. So he got 12 wins on the season.
It's not bad.
Not bad, just being a little bit greedy there, Kyle. You are. That's yeah. He got his 12th win in the season, so he equaled that in style, and he'll be moving up to well, what is currently known as Pro Mazda, whatever it's known as next season.
Pro Honda.
Well, maybe. Who knows? But he moves up to that series next year. In Pro Mazda, the championship was sewn up by Rinus VK.
Good old VK.
In a dominant fashion. He was not quite as dominant as Kyle Kirkwood, but he was quite dominant in that series. And now, of course, we go to the big boys. Well, not reflected upon by field size, but the big open wheel championship. Or the big development championship, rather, on the Mazda Road to Indy, which is, of course, Indy Lights. And that honor went to, well, it was either going to go to two of the Andretti drivers, which is Colton Herta or Pato O'Ward. And Pato O'Ward came out on top with his win in the first race of the weekend. So he sealed that title on Saturday. And on Sunday, I don't remember if he won Sunday. But,
he did, yeah. He swept the weekend.
Did he? Okay, he did sweep the weekend. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's swept the weekend and clinched his title in style. However, don't feel too bad for Colton Herta for not locking up the title, because come Sonoma, those two will move into IndyCar for Harding Racing, as both Pato O'Ward and Colton Herta will be racing in the season finale for them. In fact, Pato O'Ward will be testing a Harding car at Sonoma on Thursday. And staying with the testing news, the day before that, we'll see another high-profile test in the form of one Mr. Fred Alonso. Yeah.
Who's that? I've never heard of him.
I've never heard of this Fred before.
Oh, he didn't do particularly well when I saw him race at Silverstone, in fairness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he got disqualified or something, didn't he?
Yeah. Whatever's going to come
what an amateur.
Career. Yeah,
whatever's
exactly.
going to come out of this Fred guy.
What an amateur, and he thinks he can race in LMP1.
Unbelievable. But yeah, Fernando Alonso, or Fred, as he's colloquially known here, and forever will be known here as Fred.
Yes.
We'll be testing tomorrow at Barber Motorsports Park in an Andretti Autosport Honda with Ryan Hunter Ray's engineer, Ray Gosselin, handling engineering duties there. So, yeah, that's an interesting test to look out for. So we pretty much know, since he's going to be testing, Alonso's going to be in IndyCar next year. Pretty much.
Yeah, it's
That's all that
pretty
means.
much guaranteed.
Guaranteed at this point. So all the hand wringing of will they or won't they? Is he or isn't he?
He is.
He is definitely. It's in stone at this point. The question remains whether or not he will be full season or just be doing the Indy 500. But I would say that full season.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be full season.
So yeah, that's happening as well. And speaking of IndyCar, we have the 2019 calendar that was just very so lovely announced today for us. So that's very nice of IndyCar.
It's as if they planned it for us.
Exactly.
I know. So
And I've also got
them.
some news about that as well.
About?
It was on racers.com, and it's to do with something which has been added
to
the IndyCar calendar.
Oh, okay. What would that be?
Well, they're going to be going to a new circuit.
Oh, well, that happens to be one that resides in Texas.
Yes. Are you thinking of the one just on the outskirts of Austin?
Maybe. Perhaps it has the abbreviation of CODA, perhaps.
You know what? You're most correct.
Yes. We'll stop teasing now, and we, as you can see on the stream, we have 17 races for the 2019 season, and as you might very well see, it's no longer the Verizon IndyCar Series, but that was known, I think, last year that Verizon's last season would be this season. So it's
last season.
Yeah, so it's now just the IndyCar Series. But the 2019 schedule, of course, kicks off at the very usual stomping grounds of St. Pete for the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg on March 10th. Of course, we go to the new circuit, as we mentioned, which is the Circuit of the Americas. And that was, of course, only agreed upon by... after giving a very big discount to Texas Motor Speedway to allow that to happen. So they get a very nice sanctioning fee in exchange for CODA coming on the schedule.
Ooh.
Which, you know, if everyone win-win situation, it's fine. No problems there. So we have, of course, St. Pete, like I mentioned. We have Austin. Of course, after that, we go to the Barber Motorsport Park in Birmingham, Alabama, and the
Let's hope
week
it's not as
after
wet
that,
this time.
Well, hopefully, yeah. I mean, we don't mind wet. We just don't want monsoon-like conditions.
We don't want it to be impossible to drive around.
Yes, no.
Just
When it's a giant lake, it's not quite drivable.
Yeah, I was
when you've literally got ducks swimming on the racetrack.
Yes. I mean, also, Barber Motorsport Park isn't exactly flat either.
No.
It's quite
Yeah.
uphill and down dale.
Which creates puddles. Yes.
Yes, creates a nice little stream running across some parts of the track.
Oh, I see the article on which you have mentioned here. What is this?
Oh, indeed.
Track modifications. What is this?
Yes.
Are we going to add barriers to make sure they don't run 5 miles off track?
Well, wasn't it when the last time the Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge Series raced at COTA, the street tuner cars were actually racing a completely different circuit to everyone else?
You mean they were like literally almost touching the walls? That's how far off track they were.
Yes, they were. Yeah, they were that far off track that literally the entirety of the runoff area was counted as the circuit, so it was literally a free-for-all. From memory, okay, it might be a slight exaggeration, but I don't think it was actually that far off.
Right. Okay. So they're saying for the COTA race, don't actually compare or get the thought that they'll run the complete F1 layout. They could run the layout that was used by V8 supercars when they were here years ago. The one time they were
layouts.
they were there. They could run the section that cuts from turn 6 to the middle of the back straight. However, he's who is the Bobby Epstein, the chairman of COTA, has said a new layout could be constructed for IndyCar, which they think would be a fun layout for them. So, yeah.
We have no idea what
new track could be constructed for IndyCar, so we have no idea the layout.
Yeah, exactly. We have absolutely no idea at this stage as to what the heck's going to be going on.
However, I can guarantee it'll probably be really brilliant. Yeah. Because there's not many times you can compare an IndyCar on an F1 grade circuit. So.
Oh, crikey. When was the last time we were able to do that? Wasn't it when Champ Car raced at Montreal?
Indy GP used to be FIA grade.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, because for the road course race at Indianapolis, they actually built a different version of the road course just for IndyCar.
Well, they use the MotoGP layout, but they modified it, so yeah.
And they're going the opposite direction to what MotoGP were.
Yeah. So that was the tweak to that. But yeah, COTA's on there, and it'll be a random layout. Who knows? Maybe they run the Rallycross layout. Nobody. Everyone wants IndyCar on the dirt, so we'll just have Rallycross IndyCar. Who knows?
Just go through the bit which they used for the X Games.
Well, that would be the Rallycross layout, I think.
Actually, good point. Yeah.
But getting back to the schedule, we have, of course, Barber, which hopefully it doesn't rain, like we mentioned. We go the next week, and we have
your local round.
Well, one of them, yeah.
One of the many.
Yes.
One of many, yes.
The joys of living on the best
coast. I don't know why I say many.
Yeah, one or
two on there. But we have the Grand Prix of Long Beach on April 14th, and of course we have the month of May, which starts on the 11th, and that would be the 5th round of the season, and that would be the Indianapolis GP on the aforementioned road course. Before we switch to the lovely 2 weeks of May, which is the 103rd
best 2 weeks
running.
of the year.
Yes, the best 2 weeks of the year, absolutely. The 103rd running of the Indianapolis 500. And, of course, the entire month of May, lest we not forget, is on NBC. Lovely, great news for that.
Yes. Not NBC.
Of course, the entirety of the 2019 season on NBC or NBCSN.
Yes. No more
always bad coverage. Yeah.
Awfully bad coverage.
Never bad coverage. Yes.
And never bad coverage is Sports Network.
Yes.
Sure. Yes. I don't know that reference at all, but let's go with that.
Yeah, we've just made it up, and if anybody wants to use that, and you are from a major media outlet, please let us know.
We take royalties of £50,000.
Yes, enough to pay for me to do a pub crawl in central London
for one night.
Everything goes back
for one night.
Everything goes back to your drinking, doesn't it? Yeah.
Well, I am a university student. Come on.
Anyway, getting back to the schedule, we of course go past the month of May and go into the month of June, which is the doubleheader at Detroit, for the Detroit Grand Prix at Belle Isle as pigeon size.
Yeah,
come on, it's not the worst race in the world. Let's be fair.
It's no Monaco.
It's no Monaco, but hopefully we won't have a complete Philistine from the corporate board of a large OEM driving the pace car this year. which means the
Oh,
pace
come
car
on,
might
that was one of
actually.
the best moments of this season. Come on.
Yeah.
In fairness, at least the pace car might actually be able to do the entirety of the warm-up lap this year without being stuck into a bloody wall.
I'm sure they won't have to happen again.
I'm fairly sure that is going to be given to a racing driver affiliated with the manufacturer. Oh wait, no, that won't happen because all the Corvette's drivers are going to be in northern France.
There you go, Pigeon. You've been corrected by Dan. He says Detroit means SST, which therefore means it is good. You have been corrected.
Okay, I apologise.
You have been put right by the chat.
Boy.
There you go. Dan with the save there. Of course, we move to round 9 of the championship, which is the second oval of the season, and that would be Saturday night under the lights at Texas Motor Speedway on June 8th. And of course, 2 weeks later after that, we go to round 9, or round 10 rather, at Road America, everyone's favorite circuit.
Yes, just in time for my birthday as well.
Should have a trip out there to Road America, methinks.
Yeah, do you want to take me? If you don't want to go, you can just pay for me to go instead.
Use your birthday present to pay for Pigeon.
Yeah. Oh, then again, Road America for IMSA.
Well, it's not the same weekend, but yeah.
Should
the
be.
temptation. Yeah, it should be.
Lots of weekends should be shared with IMSA, but sadly that's not the case.
Just share them all. Take IMSA to Indy 500. Make them do the oval.
Ooh. Oh, no. The road course the day before the race
No, that's
would
an
be
idea.
brilliant.
Wow.
Actually, you know, while you're at it, do a slight endurance race. Do like a
3 hour?
a 3 hour
48 hour.
40. That would be the morning of the Indy 500.
They finish it and then 30 minutes later the Indy 500 starts.
No.
Brilliant,
They
yes.
finish it, and then 30 minutes later, the drivers are just walking out onto the grid for the Indy 500 for the pre-race.
No, they do the pre-race while the race is still going on. You have to dodge them.
Oh god. Going off the rails quickly here.
There's a bit sadistic in it.
Basically means you have to pit every lap or you just crash into the grid.
Whoa.
Oh jeez. Anyway, going
then again-
past your madness. Now we're moving on.
Yes. Before we dig
Oh.
ourselves Santino Ferrucci style into an incredibly deep hole we can't actually climb out of and just decide to keep digging further for shits and giggles.
On that front, yeah, I encourage everyone, speaking of Santino Ferrucci, to listen to the podcast in which he was trying to be a very interesting, contrite, but not coming off as contrite.
No, just still
yeah.
coming off as a complete dickhead, probably.
Yeah, the Marshall Pruitt podcast with him is out there. I suggest you listen to it to get his perspective on things, but even then, you're kind of just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, just shut up, bruv.
Yeah, but
Shut up, fam.
the 11th round of the season is at Toronto, the only stop north of the border, on
It
July
should
4th.
happen.
Oh, is it before Iowa then?
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
Iowa's
before
the
Iowa.
weekend after. Oh, I was going to say, IMSA, Toronto.
Just stop with your IMSAing of all the things. Just enough. The 12th round of the season is Iowa, which is thankfully this year going back to a Saturday night race.
Get
Oh,
as it
yes.
belongs.
Yes.
So
Does
now
mean-
we'll actually have crowds. Ugh.
Does mean I'll have to stay up till 2 in the morning again, but it's worth it.
No,
That's
fine.
bedtime
Come
for
on.
me, I think.
Iowa from IndyCar from Iowa's Saturday night. Wait, what else do you have to do really? Come on, clear a
I
schedule.
know.
Honestly.
Get a cold beer
You
out,
have
chill out.
advanced warning. They've told you in advance that on July 20th there will be a Saturday night race at Iowa. So you know what? If you can't plan in advance to have your schedule cleared by then, I can't help you. Sorry, Pigeon.
I mean, then again, 2 o'clock's usually bedtime for me anyway. 2 in the morning.
What's another
Yeah,
2 hours, honestly?
Well, Rob, you're still a student.
Yes, I know. I do have a slight advantage. in
I'm a
fairness.
grown adult now, apparently.
What is adulting? What is
move
being
past
involved?
you two
No
arguing
one
about
knows.
age yet again. The 13th round the weekend after that sees a return to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. Of course, Honda's stomping grounds there in Ohio. And after that, we have the slight break in the summer and move to the 2 last weeks of August, which is the 14th round of the season at Pocono. So there's that. And then the week after that, the 15th round of the season, we see Gateway again. And all of those are, I think, Pocono's a Sunday race and Gateway's a Saturday race, obviously.
Yeah, Gateway's keeping its time slot.
Yes, because Gateway needs to be a Saturday race. It works better under the lights and it's amazing. And long may we continue coming to Gateway because the fans like it there. So
and it's promoted well.
And yes, that's the key.
Unlike
very well.
Unlike Milwaukee.
Well, Milwaukee's a parking lot now, so let's not talk about Milwaukee.
What, the track's gone?
No, the track is there. It's just used as a parking lot for the fairgrounds. But
waste of a perfectly good circuit, in my opinion.
Well, tell that to the people who ran it into the ground. But of course, we come to the Labor Day weekend, and the 16th round of the season sees the return to Portland.
Yeah.
And the best news of all the tracks, so all the calendars, we have Laguna Seca coming back to the calendar for September 22nd, the weekend after IMSA. So 2 glorious weekends of Laguna Seca.
Beautiful.
Oh, beautiful. Yes. Beautiful days of September 2019. Oh, I cannot wait.
And back where the final round should be.
It should be. Well, what took them so long, really? Honestly, that's the only thing I could say. Just, Sonoma had its time. It was great, but no, it belongs in Laguna.
We're home.
Plain and simple. It's come home.
It's coming home.
It's coming home. It's coming home. It's coming. Indycar's coming home. I'm gonna shut up now.
Shut up now. Yes.
I mean, you made an effort.
Well, so am I just gonna get a certificate from one of yours in a bit in like rainbow Comic Sans underneath saying you tried?
Hang on, I can do one better here. There you go, Rob.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Why, thank you. I humbly nobly accept this most highest honor. Thank you.
I don't know about highest honor, but it's an honor, yeah. But that is the glorious 2019 IndyCar schedule, and I can't find any flaws with it, actually.
No.
It's all on NBC's family of networks. There's a great mix of road courses.
The only thing that's missing
ovals.
For me is Watkins Glen. That's the only thing I'd like to see.
Well, that is the mission. But if it comes at the expense of the Labor Day weekend at Portland, I will happily omit Watkins Glen from the schedule.
Yeah.
If we can keep Portland.
Yeah.
Because the fan base there is amazing. The racing there from just this race proves that it should be on the calendar. And long may it be so, because wow, it's just amazing. Actually, on the Portland note, there was a rather funny and actually a really interesting story that came out from the autograph session at the weekend, involving a fan who had the Indianapolis Motor Speedway wheel and wings logo tattooed on his, I think it was his right arm, and he had drivers sign it, and everyone was just like, okay, well, what's he doing with that? Why is he getting his arm signed? Like, after the race, this fan was going to go and get it tattooed. He was going to get the signatures of the drivers tattooed onto his arm. So that was a pretty cool story. That's pretty cool. From the weekend. Yeah.
Wow.
Permanent fan dedication there. That's brilliant. piece of news that came out over the weekend. And speaking of weekends, we have a very busy one, slightly. Well, actually, for Rob, really, because he's on duty, I think, for RSL.
Yes, I am. And there is the... well, to start with, there's the Crevantic 24 Hours of Barcelona. This weekend,
Pointless.
51
Pointless.
cars entered. And...
Most pointless series.
The most pointless series with the most pointless track with the most pointless of drivers. But go on.
Yeah, there's 51 cars.
I'll allow you to plug it because you're working it. But other than that, it's pointless.
They got the big GT3 cars back this year as well, because of course last year was for the touring car series only. But yeah, they got some fair smattering of GT3 cars and even a Super Trofeo Evo Spec Lamborghini Huracan.
Wonderful.
Which was most interesting. And yeah, that's happening. So is the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship from the circuit formerly known as Mazda Raceway, Laguna Seca.
It will forever be Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca in my heart, Rob. Just
Yes.
never you forget that.
Oh, it will be the same for me. Don't you worry, mate.
It will either be Laguna Seca or Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca in my heart.
Not WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca.
No. It's a horrible name and it's too long, and it will forever be Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca.
And there's Cooper McNeil, so yeah.
Well, I didn't want to mention that. See, I almost got away without mentioning Cooper McNeil.
Oh, dear.
Or the McNeils, but you had to go and ruin it, didn't you?
I'm sorry.
You're not, though.
You're not, though, are you?
It's like my life.
Okay.
Okay.
Moving past Rob's rather tragic omission. We of course have the lovely IMSA weekend, the super weekend as I like to call it, because there'll be the super trofeos. As I hear Dan having a small cheer in the ether. The Lamborghini Super Trofeo weekend there, which will wrap up the North American Championship before they head off to where's the World Final this year? It's in Ricardo Tormo, I think, isn't it? Or is it in Monza? I don't remember where it is.
I think.
Actually,
that is a
maybe.
pretty good question. Where is it?
While Rob looks that up, I'll have him look that up. The Lamborghini Super Trofeos are there. Of course, the ever so wonderful Conti Challenge boys are on deck on Saturday.
Those TCRs are going to be amazing, Laguna.
Oh. Wow.
Oh, have you found the answer, Mr. Wow?
Yes. Vallelunga in Italy, just on the outskirts of Rome.
Right, okay. I don't even know where that is.
It's actually, I think, judging by the date, that could be the weekend of the traditional 6-hour race at Vallelunga. So, yes, it is most interesting indeed. Yes, sorry about that.
Okay. No, that's fine. We asked and you delivered, so well done. You did your job for once.
Hey.
There is the Conti Challenge boys, like I mentioned, on Saturday, bringing the lovely thunder, as it were. And of course, Sunday is the big boys of the WeatherTech series.
And the 7 Super Trofeo race.
And obviously, but
the
big bad prototypes and the GT Le Mans and the GTD cars will do battle on Sunday. And on actually the note of the GTD field, we have a very high-profile entry that will be missing from the weekend. In the shape of the Sun Energy 1 car that was due to be entered. And that would have been the number 75 for Kenny Hobble and Jamie Whincup. But Kenny Hobble has had fallen ill after the second, or rather after the first Blancpain sprint race of the weekend at the Hungaroring. So he's pulled his entry for Laguna Seca this weekend. So Jamie Whincup will not be coming stateside to make his North American debut, as it were.
That's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame, but
Technically, it's not his North American debut though, because I think he did race at COTA when V8 Supercars.
well, that's true, but in sports cars, rather.
Yeah.
Would have been a more attended event, rather.
Well, it wasn't exactly difficult to get more attendance, in fairness, than that.
Well, that's true, but, just saying, for factual sake, Rob.
Yes, I know, for factual sake.
The 75 will be withdrawn, so WinCup can instead stay in Australia to focus on the Pertec Enduro Cup opener in 2 weeks' time.
Sandown?
At Sounddown, exactly. But other than that, there wasn't really a change in the entries for this weekend that I could see. So there's that. Oh, of course, there's also the Indianapolis weekend for NASCAR at the Brickyard.
Yeah.
But that's not important because that's boring. The important bit of information to come out of Indy with the NASCAR weekend is, of course, the dirt oval that has been erected in the infield.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Which actually will be televised on Thursday, I think, on NBCSN. So those of you that are in America can watch that lovely event happening, which will probably be the best thing to come out of Indy that weekend.
Yes. I think there is also a Super GT round this weekend as well at Sugo.
Is there?
I think so.
Because Nismo has not updated me, so I don't know.
I've updated the BOP tables.
So is there a Sugo happening this weekend?
There is a Sugo happening this weekend.
Ooh, excellent. Well, there's that too. And actually, don't miss the Super GT race, because Sugo is an awesome track and Super GT is wonderful. So, yeah.
And the racing tends to be even more batshit insane than Super GT's normal batshit insane standards.
Well, Sugo is like the Lime Rock Park of Japan. So
actually, that's a pretty good comparison because
they're both very small bull rings, yeah.
Yes, and both rather quick indeed. I think the Super Formula cars do like 1 minute, 1 second laps.
So there was that.
Yes, I think it was also the track which Pierre Gasly found to be the gnarliest he raced on when he was racing out in Japan last year.
That doesn't surprise me in the slightest, really.
And actually, speaking of... Sorry.
Oh, well, I was going to say, keep abreast of Nismo TV's Twitter feed or social media pages to determine the start times in your area, or check their YouTube page occasionally this week to find that. And of course, it's non-geoblocked, so there's no reason for you to not enjoy their coverage.
There's also MotoGP at San Marino this weekend, and DTM and FIA Formula 3 at the Nürburgring.
Okay, I have a correction to issue on behalf of stuff, because Rob has gotten his dates wrong.
What?
Super GT is on the 15th and the 16th.
I was going off the series website.
Well, apparently stuff
hold on, I'm going to have to...
Super GT is the 15th to the 16th. Super Formula is at Okayama, though, this weekend, and the ADAC GT Masters is at the Sachsenring this week.
According to what I've got, Sugo's next weekend. Is in the 15th and 16th.
I've just reread it.
He is
15th,
told
16th.
Me it's 15th,
yeah, my bad. I read it.
So don't listen to Rob. He's a liar. Yeah.
The dates are the wrong way round. It should be the day of the month.
Let's not start this argument with Forza here. He's just going to be wrong.
I'm not going to argue with you two. Just you do things your way. That's how it says it on the calendar. Don't argue with the dates. You don't know how to read dates. Just
that's
you're
true.
Wrong and move on. So, yes, on Rob's blatant calendar.
Oh, hold on. There was another thing I wanted to mention quick.
Is it calendar related? Otherwise, you're not mentioning it.
It's Nick Tandy at the weekend at Brands.
Oh, okay. Well, go ahead. You can mention.
Yes, so Nick Tandy was driving the bonkers Porsche 919 Hybrid Evo at Brands Hatch over the weekend on the Indy circuit and was trying to beat the 38.032 lap record set by Scott Mansell in a Benetton Formula One car. And during the final run, Tandy was hitting 192 miles an hour before braking for Paddock Hill. But he could only manage
really quick.
Yes, he could only manage a best time of 38.16, although the hybrid system hadn't been mapped and the bespoke Michelin tyres that it normally runs were absent, replaced with just normal off-the-shelf rubber. And prior to last Sunday, Tandy had never actually sat in the car.
Not bad performance then for something that's not optimized for that. Bad
No,
at all.
not at all. Absolutely incredible, and it's going to be coming to Rennsport Reunion at Laguna Seca.
Oh yes, at the end of September, and
Please go and see that if you're in the if you're in the state or maybe a state or two away from Laguna Seca. Go to Laguna Seca that weekend for Rennsport Reunion.
I'll go to Laguna Seca this weekend as well. GTHub meetup for anyone who's going. So yeah. As I will be trying my best to make it there on Sunday. Plans allowing currently, so yeah. But those of you who are on the West Coast and are able to make it to Laguna Seca this weekend, don't miss IMSA because you'll regret it. And also make it out to Rennsport Reunion because it's only a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because there's only been 6 of them. So yeah. Also, speaking of reunions and old cars and whatnot, the Goodwood Revival is this weekend, apparently, as stuff is just mentioned.
Oh, yes.
So that'll please one of our anoraks online, who probably doesn't watch the podcast, but I'll mention it anyway.
Yes. I think that's actually got one of the most expensive races of all time in terms of classic cars. The Kinrara Trophy, I think, has a grid value of about £200 million.
Sure. Maybe. Is that important? I don't know.
No, but it's just cool as heck that cars worth that much money are actually being thrashed on track.
Well, I wouldn't say thrashed.
Yeah.
Well, compared to being sat in a museum.
Driven fast in relatively close proximity to each other.
There you go. That's a good description.
Oh, absolutely.
And on Rob's terrible accent there, I'm afraid we're going to have to end now because he's just offended everyone. So yeah.
I was going to say, what, me doing a posh British accent wrong? What else is new?
Yes. Well, we've overstayed our welcome, so we will be bidding you adieu for now, and we hope you enjoyed the rundown here.
Yes. And
bye, guys.
Goodbye.
Back next week as well. Bye.